back. Episode number 4 of the River City Rundown. Kind of crazy that we're on number 4, Mark. I don't know what your thoughts are.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, and the kind of weird thing going into 4, and I don't know if you feel this way. There's just been not a whole lot going on in the scene. The last 3 episodes, we've come in like hot with tons of stuff, and just seems like the end of June and early July was a bit of a slow month in the endurance world, at least locally.
It's been pretty weird, just in terms of like the fact that we have not had, I guess like the same buzz that we normally would at this point.
Right.
I feel like that's the thing. Like to your point, we just maybe it just this is how it always is, and we have a little bit of a low period of time. I mean, thinking about the past, I mean, we always have like on the road scene, the Macklind Mile is huge. Like doing like the All American 5K, they didn't have that this year, so I know that was disappointing. So like we didn't have that opportunity. But there's some other stuff that are trickled in. Just right now, there's just not a lot of like I would say big signature events, and that's not to say there aren't great stuff that's out there. Just not. Maybe just not as big and not as many people going to one specific spot.
Yep, I think that is the case. I think there's a lot of people out getting after it training wise. I think there's a lot of, I don't know, I guess you could say local buzz around the groups and people that I think we both know in the area that are really getting after it, gearing up for fall stuff. But yeah, you're right. Not having the All American 5K and just a few little things there that kind of, from our standpoint of recapping, is a little light this month. But we'll dig into that here in a little bit. I want to know what's going on in Mark's world. What have you been up to, my man?
Yeah, I mean, the world has been so busy. I feel like everybody's just like kind of getting back into it, whatever that looks like. On our side of things with Spivak training, we've been really busy. Obviously, our runners are all gearing up for fall races. So this is kind of the time of the year where I would say we start to settle into our plans, and the honeymoon phase is kind of ending, and now it's kind of grind hard, train hard mentality, and that side of the season. So that's essentially kind of where we're at on the road side of things, with the heat and humidity, I think that obviously it hasn't been that bad yet this summer, but that's been a challenge in itself. And myself personally, on my own running side of things, like we've talked about this on the show. Like I know Ryan, you went through an injury and surgery this last winter, and then I had to take about 2 months off running. A little bit, I want to say a little bit after you did, and so I'm finally kind of getting back in the swing of things. I hired a trainer, Chuck Beckham. Shout out to him with Titanium Fitness. Awesome dude, owns a gym in Brentwood, super inclusive gym. They do great work. He's a partner of Spivak Training, and just figured I just needed to kind of take that next step to help myself and make sure that I'm not obviously keep having these reoccurring injuries. So that's really the big buzz on my end of things. It's just trying to improve my fitness and get back at it. What about you, man? What's been new in your world?
Yeah, I love it. I am feeling a ton better. Still slowly getting back everything, but I'm putting together my own training plan for the month of July. So holding myself accountable, getting back to doing the auxiliary workouts that I should have been doing the whole time. And then I'm jumping back in with my coach August 1st.
Awesome.
I threw a little carrot out there for myself in December in the form of a race, which, I think the smart thing that I'm doing is I'm doing a race where there's not a lot of expectation. I can, if I have a good day, I have a good day. And if I need to pull the plug early because I'm not back there with back injury, I can. So I'm doing 4 for 30 in December, which I was signed up for last year, but we didn't do because of the pandemic. And it's a backyard ultra race. So, every 4.1667 miles every hour. And I'll just figure out how far I can go. And, really anything's going to be a win for me if I can push myself a little further within a year of back surgery. That's that's cool with me. Other than that, gosh, we feel like I was like on a podcasting circuit for about a week straight, which was, random, and it all came together. But I was able to join, Jamie and I were able to join the 10 Junk Miles podcast. We did, and if for those people who have listened or who haven't listened, probably more, is it's a really interesting and unique podcast in the podcasting world. The whole concept behind what Scott Coomer, the host, wanted to create was like, it would be like you running with your buddies. So they have this gang show format where it's literally, they sit around in Scotty's office, 4 or 5 normal hosts, and they bring in another person. And it literally is like you're drinking with your buddies, right? And so that's the whole concept. And I mean, we had a blast. We actually did that podcast at the Kettle Moraine 100 aid station. We were working with them. So we were set up in the middle of the woods doing this podcast, and just, we had a blast with it. And then we had the fortunate opportunity to go back to Scott's house Saturday night after the race in Chicago. And it was like 5-star accommodations. They put us up. His wife was beautiful, so nice, cooked. I mean, it was literally like staying in a classy hotel. And then we did another podcast with Scott on Sunday morning. So he does these long run episodes. And it's such a unique way that he does it. He brings on runners, but the conversations are really not necessarily about running. And they can go on Jamie and I talked to him for 3 hours. Wow. And that was the podcast. 3 hours of us just shooting the shit and talking. So we had an absolute blast being able to do that. And then right before that, I was on the Beer on the Run podcast, which was a really neat, fun podcast to be on. Guys out of California and Washington, kind of, just really doing a podcast about 2 things that really go hand in hand in the running world. You're either a sober person that's turned to running as your outlet, or you're a person that runs and has a beer after your runs with friends. I think those are like two levels to our community. And so Clint and Jack are just kind of melding those 2 things. And so I was able to talk about the local like craft brewery scene and really get into like the local running scene and the trail scene. So I had a blast being able to do those podcasts, since the last time we talked. So it's kind of what's been going on in my world. I am running a race this weekend, the Minor Tough, which is down in St. Joe State Park. I'm doing the 8 mile there, just kind of for fun. I'm hosting I guess I should put a little more of this into it too, but I'm a co-race director for the 3-legged monster for the Ozark Trail Association. We talked about that a little bit last time. So this race combines running on Saturday and then biking on Sunday. So kind of going down there to support, since they're supporting us in our race. So that's what's going on in my world. I know you got some bigger news on your end too.
Yeah, no. Well, first and foremost, man, I don't know if I can keep up with the awesome things that you're doing, all the media that you're getting. I need whoever is doing your PR to jump on board and get me set up. A podcast for 3 hours. I'm just trying to think about like the scene of that. Like, are you guys sitting around? Are you having beers while you're doing that?
No, it literally, we had breakfast. Went downstairs, sat on his couch. He's got 2 mics down on the couch, and Scott sits at his desk. And it literally, Mark, you, myself, and one other person could do this same thing.
Okay.
And completely nerd out on all of our running history and things that we're like. That's kind of the cool thing about the format. It goes anywhere. We talked about coaching. We talked about, I don't know, parenting, school. It just kind of, it was a conversation. And then when we all were kind of like, we don't really have much more to talk about, we're like, okay,
then it was done. What?
Yeah.
That is really cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's awesome. Just any opportunity you get to speak to people, at whatever platform that is, and just even getting practice of telling your story, I think is fun too.
Right.
And I've definitely enjoyed the podcast that I've been fortunate to be on, and I look forward to this one every month because it's something unique. It's not the standard. Let's sit around and go through the life story. It's like an opportunity for us both to chat and to catch up. But yeah, I mean, Ryan alluded to this. I've been really kind of like working on this, I would say since probably January or so is when it really kind of came into fruition. But, something I always wanted to do with Spewak training is, have an opportunity to cultivate, obviously, that team experience and be able to have the opportunity to get people together and do social runs and things like that. But really what our business is, it's people hire us for personal coaching, and so when it comes to having like individualized goals and things like that, it can be a little bit difficult and challenging to get everybody in the same, area. I mean, we coach people that are in St. Louis all the way to San Francisco, to Israel. We have an athlete in Israel. So there's a lot of components to it, and there's opportunities that we can have from a virtual standpoint. But something that's, super near and dear to my heart is having the opportunity to obviously see people in person and really coach, the day-to-day and things like that. And so there's this concept called a racing team, and, Big River has one, Go St. Louis has one. And essentially what these racing teams are is it's a club that's formed really with the structure of that community piece that meets consistently. So every team's a little bit different throughout the country. Obviously, there's cities like San Francisco and New York that have lots of racing teams, and they're really well established, communities for that. Here in St. Louis, Big River's really had probably the longest tradition with racing. Running Niche has one right now. I know Fleet Feet at one point did. Go St. Louis has one. But essentially what, the idea goal behind, these racing teams is that you're all going to wear the same uniform. You're going to be able to run with people, members of your community you go to the same kind of races, you train for the same stuff. So essentially it's kind of like you're on your college team, but the flexibility of an adult. So you're not going to meet every day for practice. And, obviously we're probably not going to go, every weekend on a trip to a different race or things like that. But, this really adding a racing team for us called Spewak Racing, which can be kind of confusing because there is a business called Spewak Training, but essentially it's just taking all the things that we've done from a community standpoint and just putting more organization and structure to it. And so this gives us the opportunity, if people want to be a part of our social runs and group runs and stuff that we do, we'll have group workouts in the future, and we'll be putting on events as well. You have that chance to be a part of it, whether you have trained with me, or you train with your coach, Ryan, or if you train with a Big River coach or whoever else is out there. This is for the whole community. So that's what I'm really excited about. And we already have people who are signing up, and, several of them are not from my Spewak training community, which is really cool. So, for me personally, how I feel about this is like, I want the chance to be able to work with as many runners as possible, whether it's a coaching standpoint or it's a running standpoint. And so this kind of marries the best of two worlds. So still doing, obviously, the same job that we're doing with Spewak training. Your wife, Jamie, obviously is coaching our ultra runners, and we're still going to kick ass and go 110% in that field. This just gives us the chance to be able to do something a little bit different. And we started Spewak Racing as a nonprofit too. And so we have opportunities for us to raise money, to be able to, to partner with different organizations in the community. We have a thing called the Ignite program, which is essentially it's going to be a sponsorship for 3 different athletes every single year. So we'll pick out 3 athletes who apply that we feel like may need help in terms of not just from the standpoint of like needing a singlet and shorts, but somebody that might not be able to afford a membership to a team, somebody that needs help with racing and things like that. So our hope is to really kind of try to help, people that are in these kind of other areas get exposed to the sport and really kind of bring that. So, that's essentially where we're at. So still doing the Spewak training 110%. And then now I've added this other organization for the community piece, and I don't think I'll ever have another minute in my day.
Well, I mean, if there's one thing I know about you is that you'll be able to manage it, and then eventually it will just flow into your natural day and grow this thing and crush it too. That's exciting stuff, man. I'm pumped. And I think we've kind of talked offline about it. I mean, it's awesome to have more opportunities, right? I mean, that's we would both love to see things like this happening on from other organizations, like the communities being built through the racing teams is fun rivalry or just friendly competition. And that's what we need is more of this. So it's awesome that you're in the ring now too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's wishful thinking, but just like you said, if you're in a rec softball league or rec volleyball league, you don't want to just play one team. You want to play multiple teams, and having the opportunity to compete on a team outside of just being on your high school, college team is really important to people. I mean, I think what COVID told us is that we want to be closer to people. We want to be socially distanced, obviously when they're sick, but we want to be, we want to have chances to be in person. We want to connect. We want to do the things that we enjoy doing. And so the racing team concept is essentially you think if you're kind of confused, you're like, well, what is a racing team? Is it just for elite runners? No, it's every ability can be a part of a racing team. You could be, I consider somebody competitive, whether they run a 12-minute mile or they run a 5-minute mile, because being competitive doesn't mean that you have to be top 10 in a race. It just means, to me personally, this is how I feel about it, is that you have a specific goal that you're chasing after, and you are dedicated to that, and you do things in your running and in your life to make yourself, have a higher chance of achieving that goal. So somebody that's, might just want to run, walk a race, for whether it's a half marathon, but they've done 10 of them and they want to get better at it. I see that as being competitive as somebody who's trying to break 70 minutes in a half marathon. So to your point, I hope that other organizations in town will be excited about, just having, their racing teams, and we can come together and hopefully host each other for events and such, and kind of get that competition rolling again. Because the more people that are running in this community, the better. I see it like this, man. St. Louis, there's runners for every club, so some people are going to click with my brand and some people won't. Some people will have a better chance of, going elsewhere, and that'll be a better chance, for them to feel like that's their tribe, whatever the case is. But the more clubs that we have, the more choices that runners in our community have. And how I see it is that if we have those, those things established, then you have more people interested in running and continuing to do it, outside of just training for that one specific race each year. So
right.
That's, I could be just totally out in left field on it and wishful thinking, but man, how I look at things, dude, and you're the same way. It's there's so many people who have opinions, and they'll tell you what you can and can't do, all these different things. And, oh, that never works. This is why we don't have it. And it is what it is. For how I look at it is you got an idea and you're passionate about something, and you got to, you have people around you, you go try it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But,
right.
Just sitting around and, criticizing and critiquing what everybody else, thinks you can and can't do, to me, it's I want to live my life to the fullest and be able to capitalize on every passion that I have. So that's how I see things.
Right. And I mean, you can take and go to the Michael Jordan quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Right. I mean, you're so right. The thing about the racing teams, and something I found interesting, and I heard this the other day, was, places like England, every town has a racing team,
So
and it's not like you have to be elite to be a part of that racing team. It's like their soccer teams or their football teams for those any British people that watch this. But James Campbell, that might be the only person. But you're passionate about that group because it represents your town or whatever, and that. I think it's neat that they have so many teams like that over there, because then they can do the things that you were just talking about and hosting each other for events. And, maybe you dipping your toes into it and bringing more teams into the mix allows for there to be interclub 5Ks, and maybe we're getting away from, because of that, which I don't want to bash the charity 5K, but I feel like there's so many of those that having something new like a inter squad 5K race where it encourages people to associate with a team, or maybe it encourages run clubs like Arch City, or you know organizations like Runwell. I mean, DRC, you can keep going. There's a million of them, to actually put something together to be a part of potential like inter squad 5K, 10K races. That would be so cool, right? And everyone shows up repping their singlets, but at the end of the day, we're all hanging out and just running with the tribe we've associated ourselves with, right? I think you're onto something. I think it has potential to, be bigger than just running teams, or racing teams.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think like something I've always really respected about you is that you just like, this is an example of something that you're passionate about, like having an idea and being willing just to do it, and to step forward and try to think big and try to think outside of the box. And just because we've done it this way for so long doesn't mean that's the only way that we have to do things. And I think just like to your point, like there are a lot of great, and there's great events, the charity events that they do a great job with it, but you just don't have the opportunity to compete as a team at those events, and I think, it's hard because when I was on the other side of it, when I put charity events on, you try to think in a way like, oh, we could have team this, team that. And it's hard to bring together teams for a charity event when there are no teams established. So it's like, we could all run for the same name on race day, but there's no rivalry. There's no, we remember that, Big River kicked our butt at the St. Louis Track Club, cross country race. So we want to get them back at the, at whatever race that is. There's not that, it's us versus, random people, whatever the case is. So, I think it's going to take, in my opinion, for our community to have, like, we can have what these other cities have, in terms of like really cool competition and all that different stuff, but it's going to take everybody working together. It's going to take every single, organization that's affiliated with running in St. Louis being willing, in my opinion, to come together and really invest and believe in the competition that we have and what we have, the people that are running here and what we can attract. I know Ben Rosario is such a big thinker with all this different stuff. I mean, he did such a great job with Matt starting that racing team and everything that they had, when they opened the store. And I think, a lot of that energy, that he brought, was cool because St. Louis at that time had not seen something like that for a while. I think since the St. Louis Track Club had some stuff established like that. So, it shows that, just kind of, in my opinion, you just have to have the right people who are passionate about doing these things. But, like athletes have come out of St. Louis who've been really successful. Julia Conan, is running professionally now. You've had people who have come to St. Louis for a period of time, have trained here, and have had opportunities because of what they were doing on the roads or the cases. And so how I see it is, you might not keep a Julia Conan, in St. Louis because the mountains are probably going to be a little bit more attractive for a professional athlete, but can we help somebody get there? And that's how I see it. So can we be the Springfield Cardinals, and get them up to the major leagues, whatever the case is, whatever that is. I just want to give people opportunities to get better.
Right. And I think the neat thing too is that those people can be a part of the team, and then, someone who's walking a 5K can be a part of the team, and I think that's the bigger thing that these teams could maybe learn from, is that it doesn't have to be just fast people. Like if the community wants to support each other, from 4-minute milers to 18-minute walkers, and they connect with whatever group, if it's Speedwalk Racing or if it's Big River or whoever, like that's what it should be, right? Like we really should be promoting racing teams on all levels. And that's cool that's the concept as well.
And I want to give a shout out to Running Niche, because I feel like, they've done such a good job of that in the last couple of years. I mean, you go to a race, you're going to see an army of people from Running Niche, and, they have athletes from, they have Omar, who's obviously a 2:19 marathoner, but then they have athletes who are obviously run walking, and everybody's welcome. But something I've always really been impressed by at those events is that, you always see their top runners waiting around afterwards, cheering on their back of the Packers. And like I saw that last fall. I want to say I forget who it was, but it was somebody that was running for Running Niche. They were doing a marathon in the park. Everybody, had to find ways to be creative during COVID. This guy was running a marathon in the park, and I saw like several of Running Niche's top runners running around the park. I saw Brie Gaster, who's a really good runner, and I saw her driving her car like multiple places to go meet the person. I saw another guy that I recognized that was faster than out there supporting them. So I just think those are examples of to your point, like the power of bringing people together and keeping things inclusive for all types and abilities. So,
and that, I mean, to me, that's something we touched on, I think, in our first episode. The trail versus roadside is like, man, creating that culture, Running Niche, those athletes doing that's such a trail culture. Not to say that it's not a road culture, but like that's one of the things where so many people from the road side, when they come and do a trail race, are just like, oh my gosh, everyone's hanging out waiting for the last person to come in. And man, if Running Niche is putting that out there, we all of us who run a road race or anything should learn from that and take that example that they're setting and do the same thing. And so I'll put the call out there for anyone who runs a local road race that wins, be the person that's there when the last person comes through, and the props that I will give and what an example that would set for so many of the other fast athletes and inspire those back of the Packers is massive. So that's so cool. I love that. Happening.
No, that's a great point. And I'll say Mike Aiken is somebody that comes to my mind when I think of somebody who is one of the fastest guys in St. Louis, who will do whatever it takes to support somebody, of all, abilities and such. So shout out to you, Mike, because I know you embody that. But let's have more people like Mike.
And I want to make sure that I know it's not like a everybody thing in the roadside, but it's so much of a part of the culture of the trail side. And I hope to see more of that in road races, just because it's how it should be,
Absolutely.
So
I love that.
Anyway. All right. Well, we are pretty light on recaps, but something we wanted to talk about this week was just kind of our bucket list races. And, I think this came up for me because one of mine just happened, and I'll touch on that in the recap a little bit too. But Mark, hit me with your three races and why on each one.
Yeah, I know. I struggle with it because I feel like there's so many cool, races that you can be a part of. And the way I try to think of it was less about the competitive side and more like what I would want to go run, just like from an experience standpoint. So I put 2 races that were just for fun and then 1 race that I want to compete in. So the one for fun that I would love to do is Big Sur. It's out in California, and it's, I believe it's on a historic highway. I've never done it. I've had clients that have done it. But it's probably one of the prettiest views that you're going to get in a marathon. It's very hilly, very challenging course, but has lots of good runners that are out there, great course support, all those different things. Obviously, I'm speaking on this as somebody that hasn't done it, but essentially that's what we call bucket list. So that would be my first one. Second is kind of corny. Like I feel like copping out because I'm picking this one. Is Las Vegas's Rock and Roll at Night, and I'm not like, I mean, a Rock and Roll, they do a good job of putting on a lot of events across the country. I know that there's been some conflict with them, and in certain situations. And I'll leave it at that.
Not much love in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, St. Louis and Rock and Roll they don't really have the best of friendships, but that is what it is. I don't have anything to do with that. But they have a great event. I feel like in Las Vegas, it's like this is my reason for it, because like it's not like I doubt it's like the coolest race in the whole world, but how often do you get to run the Las Vegas Strip at night, lockdown? Yeah. I struggle to take vacations, so like having the excuse to go to Vegas, like that would be really cool, just to say, oh, I'm going because I have to run a race, and then I get to be in Vegas. So that's that other component. But I think it'd be really cool because there's that component of like how crazy people probably are at that race. Like everything from probably how they're dressed to how drunk the spectators are. I know that the marathon's kind of deserted, and a lot of people said that like that's not a very good marathon to do. So I would do the half, and I would just try to pick the pace group that's the most popular to run in, and I would just run that one and just like rage, and then afterwards go to the casino and have a good time, and lose a lot of money. So that would be my second for fun one, and then
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, like to your point on rock and roll, I mean, the one road marathon I ran was New Orleans, and the half marathon down there was amazing. Like they did a great job. Bands, like I had a blast. And doing it on the Vegas Strip at night would be absolutely incredible. That'd be so much fun. Such a party.
Absolutely. And then my third one would be the competitive one, would be Boulder to Boulder. And that's a competitive race in Boulder, Colorado, with some of the best runners in the country that do that one. And it's just, I feel like I believe it's a 10K. There might be a 10 mile to it. I could be wrong. I forget what the exact distances are, but I just know the event ends in their, I want to say it ends in their football stadium. And it's just like seeing it on social media and seeing the competition that's there and just like that experience of racing there, I think will be fun. And there's something like about that like component of racing a hard race at altitude, and not having not having to really worry about time, but really focusing on competition and effort. I just think it would be appealing and something cool to do. So that's something that maybe I can, get some Spivak racing people to be excited about. But those are my three. I'm excited to hear yours because I feel like you're somebody who really would have like an actual bucket list.
I mean, you kind of touched on it, the runcation part, right? I think that's a big factor. So I have one that, just like you said, is like, it was my bucket list before I even ran my first ultra. That's how I got into ultra running, was finding out about Western States 100 and just watching documentaries on that. I was hooked immediately and knew I needed to be an ultra runner. So Western States has always been on my list. It's a race that I want to do and I want to go out and do well at. It's the most iconic 100-miler probably in the world. Maybe there's a debate on that, but I'm getting chills talking about it. Like that is my one and only. It's going to take me probably 15 years to get into it, but I will put in every year that I possibly can to get into that race. So that's number one. Number two is more the runcation. There's a 100-miler in New Zealand called the Tarawara 100. I want to go to New Zealand. Jamie had a friend that her and her husband moved there. And not too long after that, I started looking into how could we move there. It's absolutely beautiful. And so I want to go there, but also to spend time in New Zealand. So that would be one of those, let's hang out for 10 days, do the race, and just enjoy the island. And then the last one is CCC, which is a part of the UTMB series. I don't want to do the 100-miler. That may change at some point, but the 100K is the CCC. It's in the Alps. That goes through Italy, France, and Switzerland, I believe. It's in Chamonix. That's where it starts. It's just the whole thing. There's so many races around it. The whole entire town comes around it. I mean, if you watch videos or footage on this, I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. It would be absolutely brutal. That's why I don't want to do the 100-miler. Same thing here. I'd like to spend time and enjoy the area as well. But those are my top three. Obviously, I'm sure we both have like 10 more that we could put on the list, but
I feel like such a cop out because I went all American, races here, and there's so many good ones like London or doing Berlin or going out to Italy. I know that they have some cool ones with wine. So anybody listening that thinks I'm just like pro-American only races, I'm just ignorant. I just don't know much outside of America.
You can blame it on COVID. You're not
Yeah.
allowed. You're not allowed to travel, so
Yes, exactly. That's the big piece of it. Well, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate all of those, man. You got me
yeah.
fired up, inspired to take a trip.
Let's tackle the road stuff.
Yeah.
You got more on your plate than I do on the trail side, so you can jump in. Give us a scoop.
Yeah, so we'll start with Macklind Mile because that's a great race that's every summer. Shout out to Matt Helbig and his crew over there. They do such a great job with putting on just a really solid event every single year that I would say is very unique. When we talk about races that are competitive and really kind of like create that racing culture in St. Louis, that's what Macklind Mile does. You're going to have several different waves of the Macklind Mile, and there is a non-competitive wave that you don't have to be competitive with. But there's a women's competitive wave, men's competitive wave, and they have a dog mile, which is very competitive. This year they had I think 3 people broke the dog mile record, so it was pretty awesome. But then they have an elite mile too, and so that event was a huge one for obviously our clients at Speedwalk Training because it was the first. I'd say it's the first real time we had an opportunity to race. Go St. Louis was socially distanced. It was a staggered start. So that wasn't really a race per se. I mean, it was more of I call that kind of a glorified time trial where the Macklind Mile was staggered, but it's staggered every year because there's only so many people you can put on that road, and it was a legitimate you look to your right, look to your left, look behind you, and look in front of you. You're gonna have somebody you can compete with. So it was cool, man, and just giving you guys recaps just in terms of the results of it. For Macklind Mile this year, it was I would say it wasn't as fast of a year as I would say that it has been in the past. But at the same time, it obviously still had some respectable times that were across the board. I was fired up for my friend Sarah Kruger, who ended up winning the women's competitive mile. She ran a 5:02, which is very, very fast, mile on that course. So that was cool. In that women's field, I don't even recognize a lot of these names. So Molly, I don't want to mess your name up. I'm sorry, but Molly Dockquist ran a 5:22. Erica Lindsay ran a 5:26. Danny Whitaker, Witcher, she ran 5:29. Julia Monza 5:30. So these are fast times. And then Laura Filla, if you're listening, she's awesome. She ran about a 5:32. So that was on the women's competitive side of things. For the men's competitive wave, Kyle Hill, who is a member of actually Speedwalk Racing, he won it. With a 4:29 mile. So if there's any reason to join the team, it's because of Kyle. Brett Davis, who was a very good runner for Parkway South in high school, he ran a 4:30. I think he ran at Tulsa. I might be wrong on that. Kirby Simon, who was a very respectable runner from WashU, ran a 4:32. But the coolest name in this race was 5th place, Neville Miller, who is a weatherman in the city.
Vianney boy.
Yeah, Vianney. Yeah, and with him, he was the first winner of the Festival of Miles, the first time they ever had one.
I did know that. Yeah,
so,
and he's a news anchor too.
Yes, yep. And so we always ask him for the weather for the Festival of Miles each year. So yeah, he was top 5 in that one. So that was exciting to see that. And then going on to the elite field, it wasn't as big of a field as it's kind of been in the years past. Actually, I'm sorry. I don't want to skip over the dog mile real fast because of just how fast these times were. I'm going to give you some perspective. So Rodrigo Mead ran a 4:32. Matt Kruger ran a 4:37. He'd been training his dog Lewis. I see them in the park. They weren't messing around. But then James Campbell, dude, those are some wheels on you, man. Wheels and your dog. I mean, geez, that was awesome.
He was not messing around training with his dog. That dude. I mean, James is awesome. He comes out to a lot of our runs. He loves his dogs, man. And he's got 2 dogs. So he does morning doubles, triples. He goes on his runs with one dog, gets the other dog.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And see who can hang in, who can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I give a lot of.
I knew he was fast, and I knew his dogs were fast, but 4:37 and screaming.
Oh, for a very fast time, and then on top of it, to be able to have that from the perspective of of doing, 3 people under the course record. I thought that was very impressive. And then the men's and women's mile, elite mile, I'm not seeing any women on this list. I thought there was 1 or 2 women, but I don't know if they just weren't in the results or whatever the case was on there. But Steven Stallis, obviously a very respectable runner, ran a 4:19. He's a coach over at Lafayette High School. I believe he's still the head girls coach there. I'm not entirely sure, but I think he's still that. Jordan West was a runner for Lafayette. You might know him. He was very successful, part of those Lafayette teams. He ran a 4:20. William Kelly was 4:25. Marcus Walton, great guy, runs for Big River Racing. He ran a 4:31. I think he's been we'll actually see this. He's been kind of on a racing tour these last couple months, so it's cool to see him competing again. And then the other notable name that was in that race was Mike Aiken, who it seems to get his feet into any single opportunity as possible. I convinced him to come out to a Spewak Training 5K time trial to pace 20 minutes for a 5K. So he was out there. So overall, across the board, it was a great event. And kudos to Big River Race Management for just another solid event. And also just fun to see the amount of fast times and being there. And I didn't get to say any of this at the race because I was pretty sick for 2 weeks and I didn't even have a voice. I couldn't even speak. So at Macklind Mile, I was like doing the claps, and that was about it for me, standing 100 feet away from people. So, and then, like you said, it's been a very quiet last couple months, but I'm just going to go through just a couple other races that were out there. So the Stars and Stripes 5K, which I had no idea what that was, until actually last couple of months, one of my clients wanted to sign up for it. And her name is Libby Williams, and she was trying to break 19 in a 5K. When she signed up for this, it was I would say a couple months ago, and just wanted that opportunity. Course had a lot of hard turns to it, which made it challenging. But she ran a 19:05, so we were very excited about that. So shout out to Libby who came close to breaking 19. But the overall winner was Marcus Walton, who came out and destroyed us all. I was actually pacing Libby, so Marcus destroyed me by 3 minutes? Looks like almost 3 minutes. He ran a 16:25. So kudos to Marcus for doing that. Don't recognize really many of the names. The second place was Stuart Turner, who was 17:45, and William Stahl was 18:30. So the Marcus pretty much ran that one from the front. It was pretty cool to see that. We could see him at the turnaround. Leanna Sanders, who is a runner from St. Louis, ran for Kirkwood High School, and then was an All-American in NAIA with William Woods. She ran a 19:10. Barb Leonard, who also runs with our Spewak Training crew, she ran a 19:50. Caroline Becker. I'm just shouting out all of our people, a 20:53. So that was cool to see that, obviously there with the Stars and Stripes 5K. Kudos to the city of Chesterfield for putting on a 5K on July 4th.
Okay. So it was a city of Chesterfield race?
Yeah, city of Chesterfield down there on the levee. I crossed the river, man. I crossed the river and, I made it and I survived, and now I'm back over to Brentwood. So, and then the last event we'll pull up is one that I'm pumped about just to share because it had some Spewak flavor to it. But the 10K, very competitive. This is Firecracker 10K and 5K, which is I call it a historic event. I don't know how many years they have. I think it actually 37 years they've been around. Wow. They've done that race for a while. I'm not a math major, but that was definitely, started somewhere in the early 1990s or late 1980s. So that's pretty cool that they're still around that and they're doing that event, and that ends in the River City Rascals Stadium. So that's a cool event on July 4th. If you guys are looking for something fun to do. But there was a 10K, Austin Crow, who was a very successful runner for Lindenwood and Timberland High School. He ran a 32:35. And then Seth Graham ran a 34 flat. And Yang Pan, who we probably know from Strava, he's around here in the community. He ran a 35:39. Then on the 5K side of things, two of the guys that have worked with me in their off seasons who run for Dan Staples over at Timberland High School. Trevor Pyman and Tyler Freiner. Trevor's a senior, so Trevor's going his freshman year at Mizzou next year. So he's been training, obviously getting ready for college, and then Tyler's going to be a senior. But they both ran 15:33 and 15:34, so very fast. And then Seth Gleason, who's a sub 15 5K runner on the track. I forget where he's at now. I think they said he was running for SEMO now. I believe he might have transferred from UMKC because their program got cut. He ran a 16:19. But then just kind of on the other side of things, I'm just looking down. There was a few women that were under 20 minutes. It looks like, so that was pretty cool to see that. And that's not, as I recall, it's not a super easy course either. So kudos to everybody that ran that race. It was a unseasonably cool July 4th that we're not used to in the morning. So that's the update from the roads. I mean, I'm probably
advantage.
Yeah. So like I said, there hasn't been a lot of events, but that's the ones that we've had. But let's hear about the trails, man.
Yeah. Well, one, I want to say 37 years of putting on a race.
Kudos.
Major kudos. I feel like that race deserves more love, just for longevity, we should be pumping that thing every year from here on out. Now that I know that's got 37 years of life, that's amazing. Really, trail scene, we don't have a whole lot. Ultra wise, there was a race down at the Lake of the Ozarks that was called the Lotto Endurance. It was a marathon in a 6 hour. I think the 6 hour started at midnight and went to 6 in the morning. Marathon started at midnight. Cody Eubanks took home the 6 hour. And they're really marathon wise, I think it was more of just kind of training run for a lot of people. I think that race might take off in a few years. Just, being a first year race, it's cool to see it going out there. If for people that don't know about the Lake of the Ozarks scene in general, they really have some great races coming on, and they do have a great road race too, with the Bridges and Dam half marathon, and I can't remember what all they have with that, but they've got some great races down there. So if you guys haven't been down there, talk about a great way to spend 3 or 4 days, go down and do a race and enjoy the Lake of the Ozarks. So that was really it, because the other race, Dark to Dawn, got canceled because of the rains that we had with the flooding. And then it was moved to last weekend, and it got canceled again due to weather. So those were our trail scene kind of races. Outside of that, we did have Western States. We had one Missourian that we claim, he doesn't live here anymore, but Eric Sensman was the person that I was hoping anyone who's a nerd and watching Western States and as a homer was kind of looking out for. Eric, I think, finished 14th place overall. Didn't probably have the day that he won it out there, but that was kind of our hometown boy, Chaminade boy that runs with the Coconino Cowboy Group, which in the trail world, those are that's the elite crew that trains out of Flagstaff and, runs a lot with Ben Rosario. I know Eric and Ben kind of work together on a lot of stuff. So really, those were the things that I was keeping my eye on. And that's all we really had. Western States, everyone should watch the final hour of that race on YouTube because it's worth it. Which leads us into kind of what's coming up. We do actually have a few things coming up, which is exciting, after having kind of a lull on the month, at least from the road or on the trail side. One of the best series, well, actually, in my opinion, it is the best thing in trail running, is the Alpine Shop series. That starts August, 4 Thursdays in August, 3 to 5 mile runs with a great after party. It literally is the most fun thing you can do in trail running in our area. So super pumped about that being back this year. Jamie, my wife's doing Get Your Butt Kicked this weekend, which is a 6 hour out at I'm drawing a blank, but it's a 6 hour.
Route 66, or am I thinking?
Route 66. a 2.5 mile loop. You run for 6 hours as far as you can go. You can walk for 6 hours, whatever you want to do. I'm run the lead belt, the 8 miler. That's the same day in the morning. So pulling double duty there, running that, and then coming home and crewing at night. Like I kind of talked about running the lead belt earlier this morning. We also have, and this is kind of on the other side of the state, but Stockton Lake, this group out of that area, I think they're called the like Stockton Adventure Club, has started pumping out trail races on the trails around the lakes out there, which is cool to see. It's drawing more of like the Kansas City crowd, Springfield crowd, but they've got a 30 miler, a 20 miler, and a 10 miler coming up the last weekend of the month. You've got Rich Lures, which I think a lot of local people know. Rich has Final Lap Race Management over on the Illinois side, does a lot of the timing over there. He actually helps out with our Shippy Endurance Run timing and is one of our good travel buddies. He has a first-year race over there, which is the same kind of concept of get your butt kicked, 6-hour race, but it's also got a 3-hour, and I think it starts at 6 p.m. too. So that's on August 7th. And then Fleet Feet coming out with another new trail race. So kudos to them. Babbler State Park.
Oh boy.
Brutal out there. But, people that run those trails love them. So they've got an 8-miler coming out on August 15th. So I'm excited to, Fleet Feet always draws a good crowd. They've got such a good fan base, and Jules does such a good job with her races. So that's kind of what's coming up on the trail side for August and the end of July.
Yeah, kudos to Jules over with Fleet Feet. She's done such a good job with the events that they put on. And St. Louis Track Club, I know, has introduced a lot of events too, and I know they're doing a lot of stuff on the trail side too. So I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not very much of a trail guy, as you guys know, but there's a lot of opportunities locally right now. So it's cool. I mean, it's exciting. Yeah. I think it's awesome. And then you're putting your own event on. I just think it's so fun to see all these different opportunities to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And come this fall, I think we'll be able to talk more about the track club's opportunities, because I think that's when a lot of their new stuff's coming out. But yeah, their track club's doing a great job of now kind of leveling out their road to trail ratio. I think they've got a pretty even balance. So right now, if you ask me, they've cornered both markets, which is cool. To be on both sides.
And then, so for the road side of things, there's not a lot coming up, but I did want to give a shout out to Forest Park Forever. They're putting on the I Love Forest Park 5K on August 22nd. This is an event that I think that most people should participate in if your calendar allows for it. It's, Forest Park is, you know how I feel about Forest Park. I think it's I try not to be too much of a homer here, but, it's the best park that we have from a road standpoint, in the country. And, it offers everything. You obviously have the zoo and all the different museums, but from a running perspective, you can get hills, you can get trails, you can get bike path, like whatever you want to do. You can run on the road out there. I mean, it's awesome. There's, so many, if you go out there in the morning time or even in the evening time, you see a lot of friendly faces. There's so many opportunities to take Forest Park to different areas of town. It's I think it kind of is the hub spot of running. And I've been to so many cities, and I've been so disappointed when you go to a city that you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. And the first thing we look up is running. And then they don't have Forest Park, like even the coolest, biggest cities don't have Forest Park. Yeah. So, I just think we're extremely lucky to have them, and they've done an amazing job. The foundation has of just keeping it so, so well, just kept throughout the year. And this is an event that, obviously goes 100% to restoring just all the cool things that the park has to offer. And for those of you that don't know this, the 1904 World's Fair and the Olympics were hosted, in the park. Well, technically at Wash U, but also in the park. They did the World's Fair and such. So a lot of stuff that they've done to just kind of keep up with the history of the park, but also doing a good job of kind of introducing a new era and keeping things beautiful. They've added Sugar Fire barbecue to their menu at the boathouse.
Yeah.
They have kind of an outdoor patio, beers and such by the boats over there. So I can't say enough good things about Forest Park. So to get over there, sign up for their race. And then other than that, I mean, we're going to be gearing up for Cowbell in the fall. Cowbell will obviously be their half marathon. It looks like Go St. Louis is going to have their half marathon. They're not going to do it downtown. They're going to be at Katy Trail. And then assuming, I think St. Louis Track Club is still out there. I believe they put this up recently that they just opened up registration for their fall half. So those are kind of a little bit further down the road, but those are the things we're trying. Oh, and then another really cool race that you got to know about is the flat 5 mile. Fleetfeet puts this one on.
Yeah.
Now it's on Katy Trail. Dude, that race it's the most simple, fun race that I have this summer. I feel like it's just like every year I love that race. It's just, get out there, run as fast as you can on the Katy Trail. Super easy, super low key. So go sign up for that one too if you want to run fast. I
love it. And I love, to your point on Forest Park, I mean, that gravel loop, it's like running a trail. For the trail people, Forest Park has everything. And when we were fortunate to be on the podcast we were on, we got the opportunity to talk about Forest Park. I mean, that is a mecca, and we are, to your point, I don't get there because I just don't live close to it, but it is such a gem. So yes, for anybody, go support that 5K. If there's one 5K you do in Forest Park a year, make it that one, because it goes directly back to the park and keeps us, gives us the gem that we have, right? And Mark needs that. If anything, do it for Mark.
Do it for me. Do it for all the high school kids that I coach. I asked that to Forest Park Forever about a year ago. I was like, do I need a permit or anything? They're like, no, the park is open to everybody. I was like, really? You can just come here with people? It's like, wow, that's so cool. So that's another reason to donate to them, because they keep me employed. So
I love it. All right, my man. Episode 4 down. Like I kind of alluded to earlier in the episode, these will be coming out in podcast form. So stay tuned. Both Mark and I will share them out to our community so that those of you that haven't tuned in or haven't gone back and watched it on YouTube, all good. I think Mark and I would still do it this way just so we can see each other when we talk. And if you go watch it on YouTube, awesome. But it will come out in podcast form so you can recap kind of what's going on and keep up, and hopefully subscribe and tune in monthly to what's going on in the area. So thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thanks guys. And this has been a blast, man. Actually, this episode out of all of them, man, this one rivals the first one. I had a blast talking with you.
And we didn't have much, right?
No, we didn't have much. Maybe it just shows that we like talking to each other. So we should hang out more often.
It goes back to how do you do a 3-hour podcast? Well,
yeah,
we could have done that if we wanted to tonight.
We'll spare our audience so that they have something to listen to in a month or two. So, well, thanks. Yeah, thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate the time as always, and we'll look forward to the next one.
All right, you too, buddy. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in.